I've had the Behringer Kobol Expander now for a few months. I got it as soon as it came out at Anderson's, actually. I think it was about £199 at the time. They're £173 now. And the reason I've not done anything on it yet is there was a lot of negativity and toxicity around the brand of Behringer and reviews and demos and videos and all that sort of stuff. And I just didn't want to get embroiled in all that. I think it's calmed down a little bit now. And anyway, lots and lots of people have asked me if I'm going to do anything on this. So I thought about time, coming up to Christmas, people are looking at buying stuff. You know, is this something that you might want to buy? And I've set it up here against the Leipzig from Analog Solutions, a very, very odd pairing, I realise. So I'm not going to do a full comparison of the two of them, but they are both two oscillator synths. They've both got a 24 dB analog filter. They're all analog, obviously. Well, the Analog Solutions is all analog. There will be some digitalness going on in the Kobol, I think particularly in the envelopes. And that's why I got the Analog Solutions out, actually, is because I was looking at the envelopes and people had asked about the sort of popping and clicking that you get at the start. I thought, I wonder if any of my pure analog things do that. I can't remember if they do it. If they do, I've not really noticed it. But because this was doing it, I got this out and it's black. And it looks nice on the table next to it. So I thought, why not? Let's have a little play. But really, I got it out to have a look at the envelopes, which I will come to later. But let's start off by running through the Kobol and what it is, what it does, and what it sounds like. Quick overview then. It's the same as all the other Behringer bits of kit, isn't it? You can take this out and stick it in your Euro rack. We get a Euro rack cable. We also get a USB in the box and a couple of leads. Actually, it's a little bit stingy, just the two patch cables, because you do need them to do various things on this, as we'll show you in a minute. But what have we got here? We've got two oscillators, 1 and 2, a single 24 dB low pass filter, and that goes from 16 Hz to 16 kHz, so not massively bright and shiny like something like the Mini Moog. And then we've got two envelopes, ADR envelopes or ADS envelopes, like you get on the Mini Moog, and you can turn the decay on or off there. Again, like you can on the Mini Moog. Got a single LFO, which works in a little bit of a weird way. And we've got a voltage processor here, so we can change the gain of various CV signals and can use them a bit like little trim pots, basically. Main tuning knob, tuning of oscillator 2 down here, or the detuning of oscillator 2, I should say. Noise generator, the LFO's only got a square or a triangle. We can sync oscillator 2 to oscillator 1, and we can have the modulation from the LFO just go into oscillator 2 and turn it off oscillator 1 there. This little knob here, or this little switch here, is for pulse width, so we bring this all the way around to PWM. On the face of it, it's pretty simple, but it's not as simple as it may at first appear. Let's start off then as normal by taking a look at the oscillators. As I say, we've got two of them. They're identical as far as I can tell so far, really, except for the fact that oscillator 2 can be synced to oscillator 1, and oscillator 1 we can turn the modulation from the LFO on or off. Aside from the LFO, we've got a mod in here as well. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got variable wave shapes from a triangle to a shark's tooth to a sawtooth to whatever that is, a half sawtooth, half square, to the square, pulse, and then over to the PWM, and LFO to PWM. You can't adjust that amount. And then ADS. Really super snappy little envelopes, these. Logarithmic, I think, so when you're down here, we're getting really, as you can see, really quick little. So let's stick oscillator 2 on. It's detuned. Let's sync it to oscillator 1. To get that typical whipping sync sound, then we're going to need to modulate VCO2 with something, an envelope. So we're going to head straight into getting the little patch cables out, ADSR2 or ADS2 out into VCO2 frequency. Here we go. And if we wanted to reduce the amount of that modulation, obviously we're going to have to reduce the amount of the signal coming from the ADS envelope. And we're slightly short cable there. Moog would give you a longer one, wouldn't they? The grief I can get for saying stuff like that. Anyway, let's take that out, put a nice long cable in, and then output into the frequency of oscillator 2. So we've got an input and an output gain. Get the idea. But yeah, that's why it's a bit stingy just having the two cables, because you use them straight away. So that's the oscillators, except for we do have another oscillator here. We've got a noise generator. If you want to use the noise generator, again, you're going to need to use some cables. So let's use white noise. White noise is coming out of here. If we want to put that directly into the VCF audio in, it's there, but it's very loud, obviously. Let's take that sync off. Oscillator 2 down. So we'd have to, again, put this through the voltage processor. See, out of the voltage processor into the audio in on the VCF. So that's white noise, pink noise. Nice to have them both. And the way we tune these oscillators is, this is very much like the Leipzig you saw in the intro actually. You've got one main tuning knob. So let's listen to oscillator 1. That also tunes oscillator 2. So this is an offset. Although, obviously, we've got the frequency control on both of them there. So VCO2 beat. I don't know if the original did what you used to get on the Taurus and what you get on the Sub 37, whereas the beat is actually a beat. So hear that beat in there. On the Sub 37, for example, it doesn't matter where you play on the keyboard, that beat will stay the same. It detunes VCO2 according to where you are to keep the beat the same. The Taurus did that, but the Behringer Toro doesn't, so I don't know if this was meant to do that or not. Because you can hear that beat changing. It's twice as fast up here. Much slower down there. And obviously, as you've just seen, you can modulate the frequency of the oscillators with inputs from your Euro rack, volume as well, and you've got an output for each of the VCOs. It's called a duophonic synth, but I can't see how you play it duophonic via MIDI, but obviously because you've got VCO1 and VCO2 frequencies in, you can send two different CVs and play it duophonically that way. I think that might be the only way you can do it. We can modulate the waveform, so let's put LFO1 out into VCO1 waveform. And this is the weird thing with the LFO, is you have to turn it up. The volume of the LFO is just weird nomenclature, isn't it? Nice that you can do that. So loads of fun to be had with that. And as we're playing with modulation, should we go to the LFOs now? Because these are quite interesting. So let's modulate the frequency of the oscillators. So let's oscillator 1, modulation on. And then that goes up to 100 Hertz. So it's almost FM range, that, isn't it? Well, it is FM, isn't it? Because you can hear it as a tone, which is pretty cool. So you can obviously do that with the filter as well. VCF frequency, LFO1 out. Let's turn it off on the oscillator. then if you wanted to increase or decrease the amount of modulation on that, we'll go to the voltage processor again. So, yeah, spacey as you like. We've got 2 outs for the LFO, which is quite handy if you wanted to modulate both of those things. Let's try modulating the waveform and the filter. That's cool. And the VCO as well. Now we've just gone crazy again. But yeah, I thought that was rather interesting. It calls it the volume and it goes that fast. And that made me think, well, can I use the CV of the keyboard to change the LFO rate? So I did attempt that. And I discovered something rather peculiar. So the LFO rate in. Okay, if I go up the keyboard, it goes slower. Down the keyboard, it gets faster. So the rate coming in is inverted, and I don't know if that's meant to do that or not, but there you go. So I've tried with the mod wheel or the mod strip on this as well. More modulation you give it, the lower the rate. I'm not sure that can be right, to be honest. But I was trying to see if I could do a bit of modulation of the FM with the keyboards to do sort of tuned FM, but I don't think it'd go fast enough anyway. Okay, then I think I've looked at everything up to the filter, so let's take a quick look at that. The filter's a 24 dB low pass. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Really smooth. Let's add a bit of resonance. We do lose some volume, not loads. That's nice all around there, isn't it? Just before you hit self-oscillation, it's really... really nice. Bring in the second oscillator. And then let's add a bit of keyboard tracking. Goes up to 2 volts per octave. So if we go to self-oscillation, just turn it down while we do that. Yeah, so difficult to tune to get it precise. Let's go a bit higher. Yeah, so I wouldn't be trying to do any organ tones on this. You'd be there forever trying to get that right. But yeah, you can track it, so you can have low, down, dull, high up bright. And then we've got ADS control as well from envelope 2. If you follow your little arrows. If you want to do your sort of acidy stuff. We've also got negative as well. Yeah, not too much to show on the VCF. It's a nice sounding analog 24 dB low pass filter. Okay then, over to the envelopes, and as I said in the intro, I got the Leipzig out to look at the envelopes in particular. I've set them up with a similar sounding tone. You can't get them identical, they're not the same synth, but here's the Kobol, and here's the Analog Solutions. So there's 2 oscillators playing there. Let's just listen to oscillator 1 on one, which is the same as 2 on the other. Gets confusing, so. Pretty similar together. Yeah, they're spot on, and let's go to oscillator 2 on this one and oscillator 1 on the Kobol. I wish I'd done it the other way around and modulated the oscillator 1 with oscillator 2 on the Kobol, because that's how it works on the Leipzig. Would have made life easier for myself. So 2 oscillators, and then on the Kobol, I'm modulating oscillator 2 with oscillator 1. So we've got oscillator 1 coming out, going into the voltage processor, coming out of the voltage processor and into VCO2, and that's so I can set the level, but you can set the level here as well. Just me playing around, seeing what you can do with it. Gives a nice rattly tone. It's lovely, that, isn't it? So doing the same on the Leipzig. I've got a lot closer tracking on the Leipzig. It was different before. Let's just try and get it a little bit out. There you go, that's nice. Just checking. Kobol and then Leipzig. Great. So the sounding the same. And this was a track I was trying to write. When I do these videos, I try and make a little track with the synths that I'm using. And with this one, I was using this sound to do something like this. And then as I've dropped the frequency down, you're getting those little pops. Which aren't really a problem, but I just wondered if you get them on something like the Leipzig, which is why I got out, as I say so. So let's turn that down, turn this one up. So much, much smoother, isn't it? But it's nothing to stress about because the attack's on 0 here. And I wonder if this is to do with them being digital LFOs. Maybe the CPU takes time to tell it what's happening, whereas with electrons flying through circuits, there's no time whatsoever on the Leipzig, but just increase the attack. There's still a little pop here and there, but it is there. If you turn it up even more, you can actually hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can definitely feel that that's a softer attack. But the pops have definitely gone. If we listen to just, let's listen to just oscillator 1 on its own. Adds a bit of resonance. Turn the attack down again. It's definitely a bit softer when you do that. Let's try that over on the Leipzig. So I'm listening to oscillator 2 only. I don't know if you can tell when you're listening to it, but when you're playing it, you can. It's a bit like having a little bit of latency in there with the Kobol. But whether you'd notice in a mix, don't know. For going really low and deep like this. And again, the Kobol. Don't want to be overplaying this really because it's not a big issue. But yeah, so there you go. You can hear it. Taking this off. Does make it feel, as you play it, a little bit softer, but not by much. It wouldn't be something that would stop me getting it, put it that way. Leipzig is, I think it's about £1,100. The Kobol's 173, so you can get about 6 of the Kobols for the Leipzig. I love the Leipzig. I love all analog solution stuff. It's a boutique company. You know, it's all made using sort of 70s tech through old technology and the like, whereas obviously the Kobol, mass manufactured, an awful lot of money's gone into the product development, the design for manufacture to make it as cheap as possible to manufacture. So they're both completely different things. But let's just take a little listen, shall we, just for the hell of it. And obviously I should say that the Leipzig's got this little sequencer along the bottom, this like really cool little sequencer. These little black knobs set control voltages, and those control voltages can be sent to VCO1, VCO2 or the VCF. So you can just get all sorts of madness. So I don't think I could make that sound worse if I tried, but I have done a whole video on the Leipzig V3, so do check that out if you want to see what this does. But as I say, bit of fun. This has got a sub-oscillator, 2 VCOs. The VCOs on the Leipzig can either be a sawtooth or a square, whereas on the Kobol, as we saw earlier, we've got all these beautiful different waveforms we can use. We've got different glider mounts for the different oscillators, 2 full ADSRs, obviously the CV sequencer. Kobol, in its favour, has got all these different inputs and outputs, so it is much more of an expander in a way, and they actually work really well together. Been having fun since I got them together, playing them both together and using the Kobol to expand the sound of the Leipzig. So yeah, it is doing what it says on the tin, I suppose. But let's take a listen to the filters. Big drop in volume with the resonance up. Super smooth, this one, isn't it? You get loads of weird distortion when you turn that up. Sounds like it's catching fire, doesn't it? Or just turn it down if you don't want it to. And then a little play with the Kobol. Oh, that's a wobble, that, isn't it? All sorts of things are rattling in the room. Let's turn that down as well. Watch your ears. Turn this down again. The Kobol Expander from Behringer, it's a nice little synth for £173. You just can't knock it, can you? I think the LFOs are analog, the VCOs are analog, the filters obviously analog. I think the only digital bits on this are the envelopes, and that shows when you're playing the envelopes, which is why I got the Leipzig 3 out, etc., etc. But it's not a biggie, you know, whack them up to about, is that 10 milliseconds or something, and it's sort of almost imperceptible. If you want to do really, really quiet things like I was doing with the Leipzig there, well, you're going to have to get another synth. But honestly, it's not an issue. But so many people had asked about it, I did think it was worth a look. All the little things that's a little bit odd with it. I did check this out on the Leipzig as well. The difference between the tuning over 5 octaves is about half a semitone, is it? A quarter of a semitone, 25 cents on this. And the reason why I checked out is because I did notice, or did think it sounded a bit out of tune when I've been playing around with it. Something like the Leipzig, it was 15 cents over the 5 octaves. So it's analog synth. And when you think about the original, you know, people had small keyboards maybe. With a lot of these smaller synths, I'll notice this on the Prodigy as well. When you've only got a keyboard with a few octaves on it, the synths don't track massive amounts of octaves very well. And this doesn't. But that could just be this one. It's not a huge thing. You know, you normally do play within this. You're not normally playing over 5 octaves on a monosynth. But just be aware, if you get it and it is a little bit out, maybe that's what they all do. And it's nothing that I've found annoying in any way, really. It's just something to note, because people do ask about the tuning, the Behringer stuff. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say on it, really. It's a nice little synth. It's a 2 oscillator, nice little analog synth. And for the £173, as I say, just well worth it, really. Treat yourself, get yourself a big stocking so you can fit it in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. I've got patches, samples, and all the rest of it over there, all for the price of a cafe latte a month. And do take a look at my StarskyCar.com website as well. I've got patches, I've got samples and stuff you can buy and stuff you can download for nothing. Buy some of the cheap stuff. It's just nice to know people support the channel, because it all does help, honestly. Well, thank you very much for staying to the very end. Please don't be too harsh on me in the comments for reviewing the Behringer bit of kit, but so many people are looking at it and so many people will be thinking about what they're going to get for Christmas. I thought, as I've got it here, I could do them a little favour and they can make their mind up based on an unbiased, honest review. So I will see you next time.